guys, how's it going? So yesterday I started to do a little bit of cleanup in front of our greenhouse. It's full of containers that have been planted with bulbs, and then also our winter sowing project, which is right here on our table right here. And I just need to get it cleared out and ready for our first annual shipment, which will come probably in the next couple of weeks. And really I need to get these planters all placed around the property anyway. So what I'm going to show you today is kind of a mix of both successes and failures, I guess you could say. Like even in my winter sowing, some of them were kind of duds and some of them were awesome. So the winter sowing, I'll kind of start with that because I did set up a camera when I opened all of them, and it's always such a fun thing, especially because I'd only opened 2, and I could look in like the little hole on top of the water jug and I could kind of see what's going on, but to see the whole plant is really fun. So taking that tape off and lifting up the dome is like a total thrill. We've got our dud section over here on the right. There's only 4 of them that were kind of duds. The rest of them are awesome. And whenever I have a dud like that, I always try to think, like, is there something that I did? Like, was it user error? There was one that was completely dry when I opened it up. So, I mean, that could have been the case. I wasn't super attentive because we have been pretty busy the last few months. Our life has been very busy. So anyway, I kind of was a little bit hands off with these, which is usually okay, except for we haven't had very much moisture. So really these were depending on me for moisture. So I thought we'd just go one by one here real quick and I'll show you what I've got. Let's start with the good ones first. Ornamental crane cabbage, which honestly could have come out of these jugs a long time ago because it's kind of a cold season plant. So I'll get them out and plant it in a shady spot and we'll see what happens. The other ones that I started from seed and then hearted them off in the cold frame, they're awesome. They're in containers already. Then we've got Rudbeckia. There are 3 kinds here. The best performer was the cherry brandy right here. And then we've got Sahara, which didn't come up amazing, except for I'm still gonna get 2, 4, 6 plants. So 2 came up in this position, 2 right here. There are 2 right here. There's a little guy right in front. And then my other 2 locations didn't come up. So I planted these differently. Like, I didn't sow super thick. Well, you can see right here, I just sowed seeds in 5 locations, so the 4 corners and center. So it was really easy for me to separate these and plant them out because it is a total pain when things are in a huge jumble. Prairie Sun Rudbeckia. It looks like this one didn't come up, but there's a whole bunch of plants right in here. Then we've got Echinacea purpurea. Those look great. Some pincushion flowers. This one's called Black Beauty, and these plants are amazing. Huge and full. We've got Fama White pincushion flower. Very different leaf structure on this variety. It's interesting. Then we've got Snow Maiden right here. Green Globe artichokes. Don't those look just so healthy and happy? Now you can see I only did 3 in this because I knew how big these plants get. In fact, here are the other green globes that I started inside in the studio from seed, and I've had these out here for a couple of weeks, getting them ready to plant out in the garden. Then we've got a couple of varieties of poppies, which these also could have been planted out earlier, and I think the dome was on them too long. They were getting a little bit stressed, but they should be fine. Then we've got 2 varieties of larkspur, which I think is going to be the only larkspur we have in our garden this year from seed anyway, because I think the ones I planted out in the cut flower garden blew away. It happens. So this one's Misty Lavender. This one is Fancy Pink with White Bee. And then my duds right here. First off, we've got Barlow Mix Columbine. We've got 2 little ones that came up. I've got a whole tray of these in the studio that are up and looking beautiful, so I'm not too worried about that. And then these are all the Buried Treasure strawberries, which I've heard that a lot of people have had issues getting them to germinate. And it could be the stratification period, I'm not sure. Some seeds need to have a cold stratification period. Like, I think on the packet it said to put the seeds in the freezer or refrigerator, I can't remember, for 3 to 4 weeks before you plant them out. But when you're doing this with the winter sowing method, you're planting them out when it's still freezing anyway, so they naturally get that stratification period. So I was thinking it would work really well in this situation, but you know, I've got 2 up of the Buried White, 2 Buried White right here. These are the Buried Treasure Reds, and this is the one that was completely bone dry. So I feel like maybe user error here. And then the Buried Treasure Pink, I've got 1. I've started other varieties of strawberries before in the past without even knowing they needed a stratification period for their seeds, and I had pretty good luck. So I don't know, this is just kind of a one-off experiment, and I don't really base any judgment when I winter sow because it's just a different, I'm not as familiar with it. I've only done it for like 2 or 3 years, so I feel like there's a lot to learn. I have a lot to learn in that realm, but I'm pretty happy with the results here. So it's still in the 30s at night, but these plants are completely ready for it because they were just sitting outside the door in their little jugs. So I'm leaving them in here just on this table just until I have a chance to plant them out in the landscape, which shouldn't be too long. I'll just start working on it. The next thing I want to show you are all the containers out here, which we had some really great luck and some kind of spotty luck. So first off, these huge galvanized troughs full of Globemaster alliums, they are going to be so beautiful, and I do believe we're going to put these at the end of our raspberry beds once they're built, which should happen in the next 2 weeks. I think that'll be like an appropriate look out there, but we're waiting until they're built because the wind is just too strong. There's nothing to protect them, and they just kind of be perched out in the middle of nowhere. So they'll just stay here and wait. Now I have this elevated raised bed from Gardener's Supply sitting here. There was nothing planted in here. I meant to plant bulbs, but the soil was frozen and it never would thaw out for us. So this is the one I had my cocktail garden in last year, and I'm kind of excited to maybe plant it just with flowers this year. We'll see. Got my sweet peas getting their sunshine for the day, hoping to plant those out this weekend. And then over here on the other side of the greenhouse, Aaron and I moved these over here yesterday. So these have been the most robust, amazing daffodils ever. These are the Casada. These are from Color Blends. Look at how beautiful they are. The reason why we moved them over here is because I'm not going to be using them in displays because we got to this project a little bit too late. Some of them look just as fresh as can be, but a lot of them are already starting to fade. So what I'm gonna do as we go through these containers is I'm just gonna start lining ones up that either came up a little spotty or maybe they're a tiny bit past their prime. I don't think any of the other ones are past their prime, but if we run across one. And I want to cut the remaining daffodils that have some life left in them and deliver them maybe to our neighbors. Just like leave a little happy bouquet on their front porch. So I think that'll be a good use for these. And what I plan to do in terms of like whether or not I'm gonna save these bulbs, I'm going to, you know, cut the nice blooms off. I'll deadhead the other ones and I'll just leave them in the pots until I either have a chance to plant the bulbs out in the landscape or until I need the pot. The best time to transplant bulbs is after the leaves have kind of started to die back. You need to leave the leaves on the bulbs so they can soak in the sunshine, which feeds the bulbs and gives them energy to bloom for the next year. So we're gonna leave the leaves intact as long as possible. I would like to plant these out in the landscape. That is the plan. So anyway, also Aaron and I did move a couple of containers up to the Versailles garden yesterday. We moved the English floral urns out that have hellebores and primrose. I'm going to remove the primrose because they're looking a little past their prime, and I've got some gorgeous new annuals. I've got some bacopa and some nemesia in there. It's just beautiful. And so whatever pots I can put just in a little grouping up there, I think that's the only grouping we'll do. The rest of them we're just gonna kind of place around randomly. So right here, this is a happy little group. I might even leave, like I might move these. These were just sitting here because we needed to move them out of the way of the pergola when that was coming down. So I might arrange those to where they're not, you know, up here, and then just do a nice little sweet grouping around each of these containers by the greenhouse so that we have the nice color. Most of these are Charm Offensive. These also came from Color Blends. Look at how pretty. They're just gorgeous. And honestly, I think this may be one of my favorites this year, and I will put the name on the screen, but they have such a beautiful kind of open and more delicate appearance than some of my other daffs, and I just really enjoyed those. And I think this may be one of the most beautiful pairings. Look at that container. I planted this container ages ago, it feels like. We did it for a Green Prophet magazine, and it was a fun one, but the container just kind of sat, and I didn't really have a great use for it until now. It's a beautiful pairing. And then we've got 2 troughs full of, cannot remember the mix, but we planted them in a video, and they're just now starting to show some color. We are going to use these in a display, as well as some of the other ones that came up nice. So there's tulips in those. We're going to do the daffodils in those 2 low containers. These came up pretty good. So you can see that I had some spotty luck though too. I can't even remember what I planted in these. It was in the video though. I should go back and look so I can tell you the names, but those didn't grow, and whatever I planted in these didn't grow. which is kind of weird. It's like, is there anything in here? Did I actually plant something in there? Yeah, there's something in there. Yep. Those stay too wet, it looks like. Interesting. So that was on us because we didn't have an enormous amount of moisture this winter. The fritillarias came up a little bit spotty, so I'm just gonna use whatever came up spotty as cutting flowers, which is fine by me. And then we've got a bunch of smaller containers, which they're coming, like it's just, they're so slow, but there's little sprouts everywhere. And if you dig in here, there's more, like there's another sprout right down in there. They're just coming up kind of at random, which is a little unfortunate. So a couple of things that I think we could have done better with this situation, and we kind of didn't really have a choice as to where they went this year, because I think the barn would have been the best area because it stays a little bit warmer than outside. So they would have been forced to grow a little bit more, but it stays colder in there than it does in the cold frame. It stays too warm in there to where it makes the bulb's growth pattern really weird. We were having the studio built this winter, so we had to keep them all out here. I think it also would have benefited them to be somewhere where their moisture level could have been controlled a little bit more. When they're outside, I mean, we did get some snow, we got some rain, it froze, you know, all of that business. And then, you know, some of the containers, especially the ones close to the arborvitae, stayed shaded for a lot longer than the other ones during the day. So if I could keep them somewhere where they're getting kind of uniform attention, I think we would get more uniform growth. And I've been growing bulbs in pots for years, and I think this is the weirdest year for bulb pots for me. But I am excited for this next part. Aaron said he would come out here and help me lift these couple of heavy ones. I think there's 4 more I actually want to place that are bigger. The rest of them are on the small side, so I think I can just pop those here and there around the landscape. So let me get him out here. All right, here comes Aaron with the tractor. We're hoping that he can just sneak right in here, right up to these pots, so we can just scoot them on, because they're pretty darn heavy. I think we could fit both of them in there.
Sure. Oh, we need burlap. No?
I think it's gentle enough. I think we're good.
Okay.
I really like how this grouping of 3 looks. We haven't had a container there in that specific spot for a while. And the urns, you know, were here, and I think that looks better. It looks more clear and more like breathing room, I guess you could say. So the primrose and the taller urns looking pretty crummy at the moment. The hellebores look awesome though. So I'm gonna take the primrose out, replant around them, plant underneath the daffs, and then I think I'm gonna plant the window boxes while I'm at it. Don't you just love when one project quickly turns into several more? So I've got a bunch of supplies to do the pots up front, but I wanted to show you an update on one of the most important bulb container plantings we did this last fall. We certainly did something right over here. Look at all of those Ice Follies daffodils. You're seeing the north side of the containers right now, which when I gave you your first update, you were seeing the south side of the containers because those came up faster. But oh my word, look at these big bouquets. They are so gorgeous. All right, here we go. So I had initially thought of doing some color coordinated displays, but we're kind of beyond that at this point. So we've got pink hellebores. I'll plant, I don't know, something, maybe I brought some white bacopa up with me. There it is right there. It's looking gorgeous. I might put that around the edges. We've got purplish pink tulips and then some daffodils that have yellow and orange in them. So I think we're just gonna kind of just go all out with color. I am loving these. So I'm thinking these 3 containers are just the perfect amount up here. It's not too cluttered. They all kind of match. They have the same kind of flavor. So in the biggest one, we've got the hellebore still, and then the snowstorm snow globe bacopa. I've used 5 of those. And then I love this. We've got the daffodils. Those look like down the saw. I don't know if that's how you say it, but daffs that are double, that have that peachy color and yellow, underplanted with the Nemesia Aromance pink, Aromance, the most fragrant annual. These are totally perfuming the entire inside of our greenhouse right now, and it's a sweet, wonderful fragrance. So I started to plant the yellow ones in the window boxes back there, and then I realized that I don't think that they're going to get enough sun back there to be happy. So I popped them back out of the window box and I'll put them somewhere else. But they actually do really well in the landscape as well, like just planted straight in a flower bed. I did that last year with the blue Nemesia, Bluebird, I think. And they were really nice. So I popped a few in around these tulips, and so these are going to bloom the pink. There was one blooming, right? Where at? Yeah, right here. Isn't that the perfect pairing right there? It's going to be so pretty. It already is. I'm really happy with this. You know what? Before we leave this area, I think I'm going to go ahead and clean these containers out a little bit and probably use some of the yellow right there. I think that'll look pretty with the blue spruces in those containers. Okay, so we've got blue spruces, ivy. There's some hellebores in here that already bloomed, but I haven't even cleaned them up yet. Oh my word. So I'm gonna do a little grooming here, and then I'll pop a few yellow Nemesia in there. I ended up going with the pink. I just felt like it went better for some reason. I don't know. Looks so much better all cleaned up. This is mostly a perennial pot, as you can see. The blue spruce, the beautiful hellebores, the ivy, and I was barely able to make a hole big enough because of all the roots in there to fit the Nemesia in, but got it done. So that'll be a nice little color accent in there. I'm not gonna get nearly as many containers placed as I thought. I keep getting sidetracked. You know what? All of these yellow Nemesia, I think I'm gonna put these in the ground somewhere, all in one big drift. I think that that would be a nice, beautiful, bright pop somewhere, and it's a good use for them, I think. Okay, so before I haul off and haul all of these containers all about the garden, I thought maybe I would create the little displays around these big containers. It won't be balanced, but that's okay. We kind of approach the greenhouse this direction, so I thought I could just kind of group some of these pots together and it'll be pretty. You guys, I'm really happy with how this turned out. There's a little group right there. and a little group right on this side. They are different, but it's okay. We approach not going straight on, so it's not really a balance thing. We approach from this angle right here. So I think it's okay. I ended up saving just the containers that had the most even growth. Some you can see have flowers, some have yet to flower. So I think we'll still get a few weeks of enjoyment out of these. I'm really looking forward to enjoying them like this instead of just scattered everywhere. Like, look at this space right here. So the allium containers, like I said, will go out once the raspberry beds are built. I haven't decided where I want to put the elevated bed, but it's cleaned out and tidy. And now I have a place over here to put my things that I'm hardening off. So the sweet peas spent the morning out in the sun and they're in the afternoon shade today. So I think I'm gonna plant them out in the cut flower garden hopefully tomorrow. I think they'll be ready. And my boneyard of sadness is along the greenhouse wall there. All the pots that didn't grow quite as even, but I can use for cutting, and they'll be fine. And my face is probably red as a beet at this point. But those containers on the side, like every time I moved one, I kind of dug around in the soil. They're all growing, like almost all, except for those 4 that I'll show you in the back of the gator. Those 4 didn't survive, but out of the amount of pots I planted, I think that's pretty good. The other ones, they're just growing at different rates. So like half the pot will be up and the other half is still there, healthy, sitting there growing, but just not as big. So, I mean, it's kind of ideal for cutting, and it'll make me feel not as bad cutting those flowers to use in arrangements. So, kind of a win-win in the end, right? So there's the 4 pots that didn't come up. Not bad because they're small pots, so that's good. And then this one, isn't that so cute? We've got some charm offensive daffodils growing in there, and then I just popped a few of the Sunsatia lemon nemesias in there. Nemesia. It's just such a cheerful, bright looking display. This is gonna go on our kitchen table, or the concrete table rather, by the kitchen entrance. And I have one more pot I wanna place, so let's go do that. So here we have some Casada daffodils looking amazing still. And I've had like this little white container on this pillar forever, but it keeps blowing over in the wind. So anyway, I'm gonna center the swoop there. There we go. Oh, that looks pretty. Plus, you guys, we have a ton of daffodils coming up in this area, and they're just starting to bloom. So exciting. The back walkway, the Cornish King's looking great still. We've got some peach cobblers right down here. Beautiful double daff. And then this is the Vidal mix of tulips coming back super strong for the 3rd year. And then here's our little tabletop. Isn't that sweet? I love it. Well guys, I think that's gonna wrap it up for today. I don't think I've moved that many containers. It's been a long time since I've moved that containers, and I don't think I've ever moved that many that were actually full of soil. They were on the dry side, and I actually timed it like that because I knew I needed to move them all, and if they're wet, they're extra heavy. So I got Paul's help on a few of the bigger items, but I think I moved most of those, all but like 4 or 5 of them, all by myself. Feels pretty good. I love it. It is nice when you have the proper tools, like the proper dolly. I like the one we have right now. In fact, I'll see if Erin can put a link down in the description box of this video, because of all the dollies that we've bought anyway, that one has worked the best for me so far. I do think it would be nice to have padding around it, which usually we add that, like those little insulating, that's almost like a pool noodle that you can put around and duct tape those on. I think we need to do that to this one, and that way it'll kind of cradle the concrete and I don't worry about it scratching or anything like that. But I didn't get any scratches on them today. And then if you have carts and things like that, and a lot of times for the bigger containers, if I just kind of roll it on the gravel, they roll pretty easy. So anyway, it is tiring still. So I'm gonna do some puttering this afternoon. I think I'm just going to plant some little things. I'll get the kids out here. It's such a beautiful afternoon. We're just gonna enjoy the rest of the day, and I hope you guys enjoy yours. We'll see you in the next video. Bye.